Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, welcome to Sox on Tap.
Tony, my first reaction is just, fuck yes, let's go.
Sox versus the Twins. That's where it all starts. Because it all starts taking care of business in-house in the Central Division.
That's right, I'm a meatball.
You got to bring that top button swag, baby.
It is always great to beat the Cubs.
And I'm a homer, so I always say they're gonna.
Dallas Keuchel Lansing got some beards that you should be afraid of.
What everybody said when he gets out there, it's me versus the other guy, and I'm going to beat him. So I just love that mentality. It's cool and fucking tough.
Steve, would you say that Tony is mad online?
I would definitely say that.
The White Sox winner.
White Sox fans, welcome in. It's the Sox on Tap post-game show. Jonnie Nani here alongside Tony Marchese. Unfortunately, we're discussing another White Sox loss today. Got a lot to get to on the show. But Tony, it's good to be back on the mic with you first and foremost.
Absolutely, Johnny. You've been gone for what feels like forever. I'm very happy to have you back. Around the On Tap Sportsnet offices every day. You're a critical piece here, and it's good to have you back. This is a welcome sight for me, and not only because we get to talk about White Sox baseball, but all you bring to the organization, Johnny. This is fantastic, even though we've got to talk about a loss. Because for those that don't know, Johnny knows. 3 years ago today, we met for the first time and started this little project together called On Tap Sportsnet. After the Sox beat the Cubs on a really good ball game, we drank a lot of beer that day, and it's just good. This is good that we're doing this, Johnny. I'm happy to have you back. How you doing?
Yeah. Happy third anniversary to On Tap. Yeah, as when it was conceived, didn't actually launch until March the following year. But yes, a little history there. That is why all of this exists, and all of our other stuff. Bears on Tap, Four Feathers, Cubs on Tap, all of that that we do in the Chicago sports media landscape. So now that that's out of the way, let's talk White Sox baseball here. Like I mentioned, unfortunately, a 5-3 loss here in Game 2 at Detroit. We've lost the series here. Magic number stays at 2 for the time being. That game between Kansas City and Cleveland starts later this evening, actually probably in a little bit here with those Cleveland earlier start times that they have when they play home games. So will be interesting to see what they do then. But Tony, the title of this episode, start right there. Tragic, not magic. Because for one, the tone of the ball game, and then two, you just don't get to clinch today.
No, you don't get to clinch today. And I really wanted to clinch today, even though I knew it was going to come in the hotel for the White Sox, if that were going to be the case, because you're gonna bank on that Cleveland loss here tonight. So if I'm trying to watch the White Sox clinch on the field, Johnny, I'm okay right here, knowing that there's going to be another opportunity for that to happen. I'd probably be a little bit more on edge. We'd probably be doing the show a little bit later to figure out had we clinched or had we not. But it's tragic, not magic is a great word here, or a great title of this episode, because there's not a lot of magic feel right now. I think that there's been a lot of wasted opportunities, a little bit of frustration creeping in for everybody.
Yeah, right, exactly. And that's kind of what we want to do, is take the temperature, because after the game on social media, you see reactions all over the spectrum. You see, couldn't even care less. I've seen that one. I've seen these don't matter at all. That's fine. I've seen that. And then I've seen other ones, extreme concern, feeling like this is a repeat of last year in the downslide that led into the first round early exit from the playoffs last year. I've seen a lot of, trends about, bullpen never getting it together. I've seen, calls about certain guys. Eloy's in a slump right now. We'll get to him later. Bullpen is what it is. And then I've also seen kind of in the middle of that, maybe just more of a personal feeling, wanting to clinch it, wanting to have that just under your belt and get done here. So I'd say I kind of reside in the middle of that, Tony. I think there's an emotional level of it for me, and I think I need to start out. Usually I would say something like this towards the end, but just if we're taking temperatures here of each of us on Sox on Tap, one of our good friends, Sam, comes out to tailgates a lot. Mansuli, may know him on Twitter, White Sox Twitter folks, but he has this thread. I'm gonna read it off real quick, because this basically describes how I feel. Says, here's where I stand as a slightly older individual who remembers 05 and 08. And yes, I remember both those two. So he says, yes, the White Sox are winning the division, and yes, today has zero bearing on October baseball. But you have to understand, it's been since September 30th of 2008. You recall, they didn't celebrate last year as they were waiting for a division title that never came. Given the events of yesterday and today, they controlled their clinch on the field destiny, which we all so desperately crave. That's where the overreaction of a team up 11 games with 11 games of play comes in. No one wants to clinch from a hotel room. We've been deprived of and deserve that rush of clinching with a win on the field, and I want that so bad. So forgive me if I come across as overreactive. That is right where I stand, Tony. It's a level of doing it on the field, having that sort of celebration there in front of you, getting for us as fans, being able to enjoy it, celebrate with friends who you're watching with. That's all part of the experience of being a fan and covering this team for me. So that's kind of where I stand. And then also you controlled your own destiny. If you did that, and, even if Cleveland won tonight, then you'd have a chance to go out and do it tomorrow in that game there and do an on the field sort of thing there. So, that's just kind of where it's a little bit frustrating for me. And we'll get to it later in the game later in the show, because tomorrow's game most likely not going to happen due to inclement weather in the forecast. So let's take your temperature. Where are you at on this?
Yeah, I'm kind of struggling with this one, Johnny, because I feel all those things. I feel the frustration for not being able to hit with runners in scoring position and get the job done today. I feel the distrust in Dallas Keuchel. I feel the worry or the concern about what you see with the eye test with Carlos Rodon right now. I say a lot of the same things that everybody else who's tuned into this team day in and day out feel. And right now, I mean, it's not the greatest stretch of baseball. I'm just going to be honest with you. It hasn't been the most pleasant stretch of baseball to watch. I've seen a lot of people tuning out of games that are normally invested through parts of the season. I've seen some wild shit on Twitter after this, game, was over in the later innings of it. People saying that, this team's one and done. Then I put into perspective how special the first half of this season was as a White Sox fan, and their ability to find ways to win ball games, their abilities to get through some things. They've weathered the storm. They've taken control of the division at such an early point. How hard is it to keep your focus through these games? These guys have been waiting for the playoffs since mid-July. It's mid-September. I mean, that's a couple months of laborious baseball. You had the Field of Dreams game in there that had some magic and some high intensity in it. You've had the toughest stretch of your schedule through the back half of this season when you've already basically done your job to get your team to October. I'm somewhere in the middle with you, Johnny. I agree from the fan standpoint that, you want to see it, and there's some frustration there. There's obvious want to win. You as a fan, you want to see your team win every game. So, I'm kind of, I guess, looking at this big picture, no, this doesn't really matter that they've lost a couple of games. I don't think that's going to be the end story of the White Sox season. If they get knocked out in the first round of the playoffs because, they had a bullpen day or something absolutely atrocious, I think both you and I are going to be screaming into these microphones and probably very, as Steve would say, mad online. I'm going to be right there with everybody. But I also kind of have appreciated this season a little bit more because this team's been really good. And we haven't really seen it at full strength. I think what I want to see through the last portion of this schedule is that team at full strength. I want it to get there. I'm just as frustrated with everybody else about the lineups, resting guys, and doing all this other stuff. But again, I don't know if that's going to be the reason that they wind up winning this thing in October. And am I being selfish as a White Sox fan right now because I want to see the full lineup every day, day in, day out? We've talked about this on the show, Johnny, and what that means and how hard it is to get through baseball season and coming off the shortened season and all that other stuff. Am I being selfish as a White Sox fan that I want to see it every day? Probably. But at the same point, we don't know what the final chapter of this storybook is going to hold. So it's been a weird, twisty-turvy year. I'm trusting in the magic and the it factor that we've talked about on this team that we haven't seen in a lot of teams in a lot of years, and I don't even think we saw it last year. There's an it factor with this team still. They're still in some of these ball games. Even today's ball game could have been changed with one swing in the ninth inning. Even after countless just different times where they could have pissed the game away completely, they were still in it to the last at bat because you had the tying run at the plate. So that's my temperature with it. I just think that the final chapter hasn't been written yet, and I'm kind of waiting for that next chapter to start.
Right. Still more to go here. We're not even, into the last series here of the regular season. I mean, we're getting down there. There's only a few left, but we're not there quite yet. Obviously, a big 5-game set, thanks to some rainouts earlier in the season. Coming up at Cleveland, then you've got back home Cincinnati for a pair and a couple of days off scattered around those, and then Detroit in that first weekend of October, with it spilling over into the 10th month of the year here to start. So there will be October baseball no matter what on the south side of Chicago, but obviously not the ones that everybody is kind of ramped up. And what's driving this point of discussion that we're talking about here, Tony. One thing that I will say though is how crushing it was for me last year with just how upset I was with the late season collapse and then that bleeding over into the wild card. And I understand different circumstances, COVID shortened season, I get that, but I think there's a buildup of frustration too that is now being let out as we're getting closer to this juncture, because we've been saying for how long? Oh, well, these bullpen guys they get, as long as they get right by mid September. Well, guess what? It's mid-September right now, and they ain't right. So there, and I know today's game is specifically maybe not the example, but you look last night, Craig Kimbrell. Luckily, Liam Hendricks has been better as of late, so that is one positive that you can take of if you want to go back and forth with the positive and negative there. But overall, I wouldn't say you feel extremely confident after seeing what Aaron Bummer did today, especially if you're relying on him to be a big arm in the postseason. So I can see both sides of it, but I guess I'll lean a little bit more towards maybe I am overreacting a little bit on this, because I see what happened last year, and unfortunately I get the same vibe. It's just literally a gut feeling that I have. So
that's what you're accustomed to it.
Yeah,
you're accustomed to it now at this
that's
point.
So White Sox, right?
Yeah, that's so White Sox. And I take a look at the tones that we've had on the show this year versus last year, where things were, and last year every game meant a lot more because there was less of them. So, we even talked about that, the first game of the season, we were frustrated last year in 2020 because of the loss. This is a longer season. I think I was a little bit more appreciative to have baseball back and get to go to games and be in the stadium and have the experience of being a baseball fan back. I think that was partial to, how I felt about and gone about how I viewed White Sox games this year. I think on top of that, this team just had a different tone to it throughout the whole entire season. I mean, if you go back and you look at the injury history, did you think we were going to be here right now? If I told you those names, if I told you some of the things that were going to happen along the way, if I told you that Billy Hamilton was going to be like a Southside legend after a 2-week stretch, when you said, well, Eloy Jimenez and Luis Robert, and, what is he playing right field? Because that's where we've come to. I probably wouldn't put money on that, Johnny. I wouldn't put money on that happening, and I don't think anybody would. It's been a cool year. It's been a good year.
Yeah, right. Overcoming a lot of adversity. We talked about this team having it. It feels like, Tony, though, we haven't said that in a while on the show. So I want to see that come back. I hope there are a few maybe exciting games. I think surely as soon as they do clinch, that will be a bit of a jolt, at least of energy for the fan base.
Yep.
I'd imagine for the team morale as well. Just having that, like I mentioned, under your belt, it's sort of a milestone sort of thing that you just need to get out of the way at some point. Not that it's, obviously take it any way you can get it, but it would be cool to do it in a fashion where it's controlling your own destiny and, being able to celebrate on the field. So that kind of circles around all this discussion to open the show here. We didn't even touch on the game yet, really. I did mention a few points that we were going to get to. So let's dive into this thing here. Yep. As I mentioned, the final score of 5-3, but the White Sox charge out early in this one. It was a Dallas Keuchel day. Luckily scoreless through 2 for him, despite getting hit pretty hard. I mean, on the day, it lets up 11 hits, I believe. Yes, to the Detroit Tigers, 2 earned runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, 5 innings pitched. So that was Dallas Keuchel today. Concerning, kind of all over the place, but that's nothing new for us when it comes to Dallas Keuchel. So any thoughts on him before we get into the scoring here? Yeah,
same thing I'm going to go back to with everybody on the starting rotation right now is, just getting out of innings quicker. It just felt like every single time Dallas Keuchel got the 2 outs today, Johnny, it was here's a walk or here's a single, or we're going to work a count to 3-2 and he's going to foul off 2 or 3 pitches and then waste one away. And that type of stuff really starts to eat away at a starting pitcher, and it's happening to Dallas Keuchel just as it's happening to everybody else. I don't know if this is just me identifying this issue and like really harping on it, but the driving your pitch count up and seeing our starters not go deep into ball games is overexposing the I guess people's concerns with Tony La Russa's bullpen management. And I think, we talked about this a little bit on Sunday Funday with, I honestly can't say that I'd be able to make the right choices in a back end of a bullpen that includes Michael Kopech, Aaron Bummer, Liam Hendricks, and Craig Kimbrell and slate them into the right innings. But I think to an extent, Johnny, Dallas Keuchel isn't your guy who's going to go 8 innings, but he has the ability to. He really does, because if he's just going to let people hit ground balls the way he's supposed to, you should see some quicker innings from him. And I don't know what the actual problem is here. He's just been hit hard way too much and thrown way too many pitches early in ball games. I expected him to step up a little bit more today, but he didn't get any help either. He didn't get any help at all even settle in. So this was a close one, and that's where you start to overextend yourself. And same story. We've seen this one over and over.
Yeah, regarding Keuchel, last note on it, the stuff is just extremely hittable. He's not hitting locations. He had to ditch the cutter, essentially, go more sinker heavy with that. And unfortunately, he's just not placing him right. You saw, the count where he's up. I believe it was 1-2 at one point. And he lays a cookie right down the middle for a guy to just rip a single. So
guys who rely on command and have no command, Johnny, are going to get murdered.
It's a formula for failure, not success. So either way, though, at the end of the day, Keuchel only gives it 2. Let's get into the scoring in this game, Tony. It was top of the third. White Sox would surge out just like they did in the Monday night opener for this series. Cesar Hernandez gets started 1-out single. Tim Anderson doubles, and then Luis Robert with the infield drawn in. Hits a ground ball through the left side. That scores 2. And the White Sox would be on the board. Unfortunately, inning would fizzle out after that. Abreu would single, but Eloy grounds in a double play to eliminate Abreu and Grandal on the bases there after he has walked. So you'd like to add more here, but at the same time, charging out early, always like to score the first runs, especially for a pitcher that is going to get hit.
Yeah, and they did a good job of that, Johnny, and it's good to see that. The offense today overall for me, and especially getting out early in this ball game, I mean, crooked number 2, I guess, qualifies as a crooked number, Johnny. You go out, you get a couple runs.
I think we need a hawk ruling on that. I don't know if he'd
agree either.
Number.
I like to go to 3 as my bare minimum.
Yes,
I like to go to 3 just for some reason. Even though 2 is a little more crooked than 3, we'll have to get Hawks ruling on that. I think that we'll get in touch with his people. Maybe NWI Steve can make a trip down over to Hawks' house and find that one out for us. But yeah, I think that there's his little bit of help. You'd like to see some more here, but I think from an offensive standpoint, Johnny, like the White Sox weren't dead today. 12 hits, man, and we could talk about the runners and scoring position problems, but getting out on the board early, there you go. Like that was a good start to this ball game. I thought we were on the right track.
Right, yeah, but just like they did in the series opener, Tigers answered back. They tied it in that bottom of the third on Monday night, but today they would get one back, and that was thanks to a Baddoo RBI single after Reyes let off with a double and got into third on a wild pitch. A lot of stuff going on after that in that inning, but Keuchel still able to escape with just one let up. Bottom of the fourth, they'd strike again, though, and tie this thing up. And that would be thanks to another Baddoo RBI single. Names that we're just starting to get annoyed with here, man.
Baddoo is one of them.
I give him credit. He's a quality ball player. So that's sometimes you do have to tip your cap to the opponent, but shit doesn't mean we don't hate him anymore. I mean, Joe Mauer was a good ball player for a long time, but I hate his fucking guts.
Yeah, I think Baddoo is quickly going to become one of my most hated Detroit Tigers. I don't know if it's the fact that he just seems to play well against the White Sox. And I mean, he's been a good ball player all year for Detroit. Or maybe it's the fact that he's got his own yabba dabba do thing that they do in the outfield when he makes a catch or whatever it is. He just seems like he's going to be a Detroit favorite, which ultimately makes him one of the guys that I don't like.
Yes.
So that's just as simple as that.
Yeah, absolutely. So for scoring wise in this game, we wouldn't get any more until the bottom of the seventh. And this is where things kind of started to fall off because Keuchel went 5, as I'd mentioned. Fry able to get out of that 6th inning thanks to a double play and a nice play by Tim Anderson. And I think actually before, let's take a step back before because there were a couple nice defensive plays to save runs. In the bottom of the first itself, Adam Engel had gotten the ball back in Anderson with the throw home. Grandal blocking the plate with his cleat. So yes, the defense wasn't crisp overall. You had Larry Garcia having one hit off his glove. You had some little odd, wonky sort of things going on, especially in these plays too. But 2 of them did result in big outs for the White Sox in the bottom of the first, like I just mentioned there. And then in the 6th, it was Reyes originally called safe when he was coming home, but that was eventually cut down. Actually, that was when Grandal blocked it. It was the first inning that Grandal slapped Scope in the face with the tag. But that's one thing that Steve and I talked about. We want to see crisp baseball all around. And that went for all facets of the game. In defense, we said that should be something that's a little easier to control on your side. But at the same time, you did get a couple of big plays here. So it's kind of like I don't know where to judge this. Like you'd like to just see the more routine stuff, Tim Anderson not throwing it into the dugout on certain plays. But at the same time, there were a few good ones here. Adam Engel being back in the mix, having that come in here. That was a little bit nice to see. But as I mentioned, that all kind of precedes this because Fry able to get out of it after Grandal blocking home plate with the spike there to get out of the 6th. But the 7th is where it would unravel. Jace Fry in for a 2nd inning. And let's be honest, this is a point of discussion when we're talking about levels of concern. And I saw, Sox Machine Penal said Jace Fry is not going to be on the playoff roster. I'm not going to let that, get me too frustrated, upset, worried about this. And I agree from that aspect of it. But at the same time, there was another guy that came in and, they were Fry's runs here, but Aaron Bummer coming in and guys are just making it look easy on him all year. And command wasn't there again today. He went down early to the first batter. What do you see from this kind of shit show of 7th inning that brought home multiple runs for the Detroit Tigers here?
This was a that's so White Sox inning, and I think that this is just the culmination of the frustration here, Johnny, because this is the type of thing that everybody can pick apart. Number one, it's easy to come back here and say, why is Jace Fry still in this ball game? Why wasn't there a pitching change? And from here on out, the tale's just kind of.
I'll tell you why, because Ryan Tepera is on the injured list. That's why.
Well, I just think it's easy pickings, right? Like it's easy to go to why is Jace Fry in for a 2nd inning? What are you doing here? It's like, okay, well, when you're making those statements online, like I generally don't think that people check like what the injury list looks like, who pitched the last 5 days, what their workload has been. Who needs to be utilized? What's the throwing program on some of these guys? Like, there's a lot more that goes into it.
I think there's a short memory, too. Did people not forget that our starter only went 3 innings on Monday night?
Yeah, like that's
having to cover a very, very vast majority of the game there.
Yeah, so that type of stuff that we talk about on the show, specifically, when I talk about going deep into ball games and starters not being able to get very far and the taxation on the bullpen that takes place over the next 4 or 5 games. Well, that game on Monday or that game 4 days ago, whenever it happened, now has a direct correlation on what's going to happen in the late inning stages of a ball game a couple days down the road. And I think, it's perfectly plausible to say that, that's what the throwing plan was today. And we've seen Tony stick to some of those things. But the inning as a whole was it was a systematic collapse of some of the bad baseball that this team has been susceptible to all year. If you remember going like in the first few games of this season, we saw some horrific baseball, Johnny. We saw some absolute nightmare plays, some stuff that we were, calling out little leaguers could do this. This is, 10-year-old fundamental stuff. These guys are still susceptible to that. I think that's the White Sox at their worst. And sometimes that's going to rear its ugly head. You saw it for an inning here.
Yeah, most definitely. And especially just within this inning, it just hurts, man. It just hurts as a fan to watch this because, a couple hits, back-to-back singles to lead it off, and then you get a double play. Jace Fry does get another double play ball here. Grossman advances a third on that one, though, and then Goodrum brings him around on the single. That would be the one that put Detroit up. That wouldn't be the winning run, though. Those come later. After Fry comes, he walks the guy after that. Fry comes out. Bummer comes in. Double steal gets it over. It doesn't really matter because Bummer's command ain't there. Walks Paredes, and then Reyes delivers a 2 RBI single. That was a crushing blow in this one. So, yes, sure, Jace Fry's runs. I get it. But at the same time, Aaron Bummer, guy that you want to come and lock it down, and guy that will be on the playoff roster for people who have that concern, that, or brushing off Jace Fry because he's, the one not there. Guess what? Aaron Bummer, you're probably going to come in with runners on base. I really don't feel confident with him just from what he's shown all year here.
He's been Jekyll and Hyde all year, Johnny. Like, you've seen sometimes where his stuff is so crisp and nasty, and then you've seen other games where Aaron Bummer inspires zero fucking confidence for anything. And I think that, it's almost like playing roulette every single time you bring him into a ball game at this point in time. Not consistent. Yep, there it is. Not consistent. I've been up and down on Bummer since he joined this White Sox club at the big league level. There's been times where people have thought that this guy has closer stuff. There's been other times where he looks like he does right now, and there's just no sense of comfort when he comes into a ball game. I think when Liam Hendricks comes into a game, or when Craig Kimbrell comes into a game, generally over the career, it's inspired comfort. We're going to get out of this. With Bummer, I have not had that all year. And I am pleasantly surprised every time he comes out of an inning and gets the job done. But if you're sitting at the ballpark and you're 5-6 beers deep and it's a tie ball game and it's the 7th inning, like Aaron Bummer comes into the game, I'm going to grab like 3 more beers before I get back to my seat because you're strapping in for an experience.
You're
one
like,
way
God
or the
damn
other.
it, why'd they ever ban smoking in the park, right?
Yes. Like, get me as much nicotine as I possibly can to get through this inning. So yeah, that's where I'm at with Aaron Bummer. I'm concerned there specifically because I thought he was going to be even if he was a solid 8th inning guy right now.
On paper, I know the baseball game is played in between the lines, but on paper, he should be one of those guys that you go to in high leverage situations. That's what we were all hyping up at the beginning of this year. Shit, we didn't even think we'd have to make bullpen acquisitions, maybe a minor 1 or 2, but hey, you know how that went, and the bullpen never being able to put together. And that kind of just builds on that point that I made earlier in kind of our intro prelude to all this about taking the temperature of where we feel right now. It's been okay, well, they're going to get it together at some point, as long as they get it together by X date or whatever. That feels like the goalposts have just been moving. And they've been getting wider. And guess what? They get any wider, it's going to extend into the playoffs. We're going to.
Who set the official date on the goalposts, though?
Yeah, I don't know. I guess I don't know about you, Tony, but for me, it's like in my mind, and I guess maybe in text conversations with you, with our guy Akins, I've said certain things. It's like, okay, well, sure, there's like issues right now, and it might take a little bit for them, a few more outings to get it, back under control. And we've seen some guys do that and come back. And Liam Hendricks, for an example, he had stretches in April. He had stretches in the Field of Dreams game early August, where he's letting shit up. But he feels like he's recentered and you feel confident in him. And he did throw a scoreless inning too, by the way, just shaking off some rust when it was already 5-2 at the end of this thing today. But you just haven't seen that from Aaron Bummer. So I think Jekyll and Hyde's a good word. Kind of long-winded here discussion on him, but someone I'm not feeling particularly confident about here as we move into the playoffs. So that would do it for that 7th inning. Let's get into the 8th because the White Sox would make a little mini rally, kind of minor surge. Starts with 2 outs. Adam Engel back in the lineup today, as I mentioned, with the defensive play, getting the ball in quickly as soon as he fielded it in the first inning in here. Top of the 8th with 2 outs, double down the line. Looked like the hamstring was good. Please, God, let that thing stay good because he's already hit the hat trick of IL stints this year. Don't need any more, especially come playoff times with that looming right now. Cesar Hernandez draws a walk after that. Tim Anderson, when it flips over, drives home Adam Engel. That makes it 5-3. Unfortunately, Luis Robert, one of the hotter bats on the team, grounds out to end that threat. Would have been nice to tack on more there, put even more pressure on this thing here, but that would be it. Talk about the top of the ninth, though, because you talk about being exciting here. I'm getting a little bit down. Still had a chance to come back and win this thing.
Yeah, you did. And I think that, I brought this up earlier. The fact that the White Sox are still in these games, it feels like silver linings. And I'm not a fan of that. A win is a win. A loss is a loss. You did not get the job done. And something that Tony La Russa said in the postgame show today, that they're not executing in all phases. That execution, I think that he's referring to, is situations like this where you're in the ball game late or early, whatever it is, and you got runners in scoring position. Are you able to get that run in? You saw the play where Garcia bunts. Who was it over to third base?
Yeah, that was earlier.
It was earlier in the game.
Yeah,
I forget who got over to third, but Adam Engel.
That was in the sixth, and that was Moncada led off with an infield single, and then Garcia had bunted him over.
Yes, Garcia bunted him over. It was a Moncada single. He reaches second on an error, and then Garcia bunts him over to third base. Execution here from Tony La Russa's standpoint is getting that run in. I mean, that's a crucial run, especially when you're like Tony knows that, bunting might not exactly be the best thing here. Garcia's been a decent bat, Johnny. I think we could rave about what Lurie Garcia's done with the bat this season. You're taking a calculated risk at this point in time to score that run, to take the lead in the ball game at the time, I believe. And there was no execution there.
Right.
And it's easier said than done. I mean, it was Adam Engel's first game back. And so you can look and you can sympathize with these things, but the execution didn't take place. I think from we've got a comment in here. Do you trust Tony's judgment? I trust Tony's judgment in doing some of these things. What I don't trust is the execution phase that he talks about from the player standpoint. Because you can set things up to succeed. You can have a reason behind what you're doing. But when you're not getting it done on the field and it doesn't work, that's where all the problems and the fingers start to get pointed, Johnny. It's now all of a sudden we lost because we bunted with Lurie, or we lost because so-and-so Jace Fry pitched 2 innings instead of 1. If there was a plan in place and it was just poorly executed, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with this as a loss because of how it went down. I'm still frustrated. I'm still mad about it. But I don't know how you feel on that.
Yeah, and I think it's been executed. I mean, think about the trade deadline acquisitions that came over, minus Ryan Tepera, because he has been pretty damn solid ever since coming over. But you look at guys that Craig Kimbrell was supposed to solidify the back of the bullpen. That hadn't been the case, so there's an execution thing on his standpoint there. Cesar Hernandez, another example here, looked good for the first week or so. Hit that home run at Wrigley not too long after being acquired in extra innings, I believe, or at least to send it in one of those games there. Either way, it looked like that was going to be the case, but faltered off. I mean, he's way below league average in terms of production, weighted runs created ever since coming over. And you saw that bleed over into the defensive side, what should be a strong suit. And I will give him credit up until most recently, has been pretty damn solid in the field. But when you have those kind of struggles, that can bleed over in other facets of the game. You guys are human beings at the end of the day. So, the mental aspect of the game there too, not as sharp focus as you needed. He did make a nice defensive play today to kind of ramp that back up. But overall, you need the total package from him. So you're just not getting that level of execution. And then guy like Adam Engel, you mentioned, just coming off the injury list. Probably still some rust to shake off, but I would rather have him do that now instead of, waiting until right before the postseason starts. So, it's I would agree with you overall then. It's the execution. I could live with it at the end of the day, but you would like to see more moments where they do come through, like Tim Anderson leading us to a come from behind walk-off victory at the Field of Dreams game and the fireworks going off. That kind of shit is what I want to see. Yeah,
I want to see that too, Johnny. I want to see the magic. I mean, you and I were at the Yasmani Grandal walk-off game. There's been some really special moments, and I think for as many highs as we've gotten to experience this year, it kind of makes the lows a little bit worse. It kind of sets that expectation that every single time this team's in a ball game, there's going to be some magical fucking turnaround, and this lineup is going to, bat around in the 8th inning and all of a sudden put up a 10 spot. What's different between this team and teams of the past is they have the ability to do that and frustrate you in a way that White Sox baseball hasn't been able to frustrate you for a long time. It's because they should win these games. They should. They have the ability to bat around. They have the ability to be down 6 runs in the 9th inning and probably fucking come back, because you get to the top of the order. It's Tim Anderson. It's Luis Robert. It's Jose Abreu. It's Eloy Jimenez. It's Yohan Moncada. It's Yasmani Grandal. Like that right there is different than any other White Sox team I think that you and I could ever even talk about, from the standpoint of these guys are major leaguers now. They all have a little bit of experience under their belt, but they're also still young.
Yeah.
They're also still young, and yet they have this level of expectation on them that they are going to be able to turn that around because they've shown the ability to do it. They've shown that they can make magic happen. Yeah. And so once magic starts happening, I think that there's just a little bit of a higher expectation on it to happen a little bit more, maybe.
Yeah. One thing that you kind of spoke to me, what you were saying there, the lows may feel a little bit lower because the highs are higher. It's kind of like the roller coaster. You get up higher on the peaks there, and then the drop is much more drastic and fast. It feels like, at least that's the case here. That's why maybe you see some of these sort of reactions here. All right. Question that'll lead us in here before we get to preview and look ahead at what's next. A little bit of a weird setup with what's going to be coming up next year. But question from Derek Rosemus on YouTube. Honestly, do you guys think this team can turn it around for the postseason? It's been 500 ball for like 80 games now and still no turnaround. This is part of the concern that I brought up at the beginning of the show. And it is, especially when you look at something like last year and you, granted, that was more of kind of they played really well up until that. I mean, through that Twin series last year, they were looking great. And then it was just the last week and a half that they completely fell off the face of the earth last year. So it's a little bit of a different setup this year with this whole kind of turnaround thing. Couple factors that go into it. I think the dog days of summer play a factor, and then a couple of things that were also mentioned in comments below here. Dwayne Lakis, thanks for both you guys kind of sparking some discussion here. But he had said, injuries and changes playing a factor in that. Definitely could see that. But there's another good point made that there are, certain players that were injured in the first half, supposed to be your, heavy hitters, big boppers, Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert, that came back, and we're still experiencing this. But then you get the factor like Jason Benetti tweeted out a couple days ago, and you've only had the kind of core guys of the lineup, and I think that was Abreu, Robert, Eloy, Grandal, Tim Anderson, all together only for 4 games now. Today
3.
Being
it was
4 after today.
4 after today,
and now 3 and 1 in those games. So obviously, extremely small sample size. It's hard, and unfortunately, I don't have a flat out answer for you right now. But this is where the negative 90 comes in. If you ask me opinion, if you'd put a gun to my head and I had to make a choice, I would say no. And I would think they're going to lose in 4 games in the division series. That's where I'll leave it.
I'm going to kind of disagree with you on that. I think that this team does have the ability to do something within this playoff series, at least with round 1. I think that the White Sox have had that taste of failure in the playoffs. I think that they went through that last year. Most of this core went through that. I think that they're all kind of gearing up towards that. And I think that one of the main differences between this year's team and last year's team, Jonnie, is probably your favorite ball player, and that's Lance Lynn. And that's where I'm going to go back and say there's some different leaders on this team that you didn't have last year. And you hand that ball to Lance Lynn in game 1 of the playoffs, and I know, or even game 2, and I know he's going to go out there and fucking shove. And it may not happen, but I know that he's got the right mindset to do so, and I know that he's going to go out there and attack. And number 2, Lucas Giolito looked like a different fucking animal in the playoffs last year against Oakland. And I know that Lucas Giolito, this is something we talk about with hockey in the Blackhawks, Jonnie, on our 4 Feathers. Patrick Kane and Jonathan Taves have admitted numerous times it's so different getting through the regular season after you've had that taste of playoff success. And one thing that I kind of want to go back and maybe attribute to Lucas Giolito kind of being like floating through the motions is because he got that first taste of what it's like to pitch on a big stage in the playoffs last year. You saw how fucking locked in this guy is. All of a sudden, you get those guys going 1-2. And right now, I think they are.
Because the death stare.
Yeah, that death stare. I think that this pitching staff, this starting pitching staff with one or two guys, Lance Lynn, Lucas Giolito, that's who I'm looking at right now. And if you can get anything out of Carlos Rodon, I think you've got the starting pitching to get yourself through that first series. On top of that, I want to go to something that Dwayne also brought up, and just for a brief second, thank you for all the guys that and anybody who comes in and comments on this show. We had some great interaction with some of you guys today. If you're not following us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, at Sox on Tap on Twitter, and then Facebook at On Tap Sportsnet, YouTube On Tap Sportsnet. Just comment in here. We'll talk about it. But I think that the Billy Hamilton thing that he brought up is kind of very interesting to me. And it's very interesting to me for one reason. Yep. The White Sox have gone out of their way to keep this man on the roster for this entire season. They have
could have very well DFA'd him instead of Jake Lamb.
You could have DFA'd him instead of Jake Lamb. You could have I think they had opportunities to get rid of Billy Hamilton had he not been part of this thing way earlier on in the year. When Eloy came back, there were plenty of opportunities. Brian Goodwin, Billy Hamilton, I think Gavin Sheets kind of plays into this a little bit as well. There are some guys here that have the ability to take over a ball game, but they're not looked at in that core that Jason Benetti tweeted about. And some of those guys have had the ability to win ball games for this club. It is the deepest White Sox team that I've seen in forever, and that's why I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to a Hall of Fame winning manager who's been here, done this before, who's seemingly assimilated to his players very well, handled things the right way, and a group of guys where if for some reason one of these guys are injured heading into the playoffs or just not there, you've got some guys that can come up and do some heroic things. And I think it's just a ball club that's built a little bit different. I think that's where the it factor is for me, Johnny. I think they make it through the first round of the playoffs. From there on, I don't know what's going to happen, but I don't care who they play.
I just wanted to preface this that I want to, I kind of take, you know me, Tony, I kind of take the assume the worst, prepare for the worst and hope for the best sort of mentality. And that is for me kind of assuming I don't know what I'm getting out of Carlos Rodon. Is it going to be 3-4 innings? Is it even going to be a starting thing? Is it going to be like an opener sort of deal? There's too much uncertainty there. So I think we'll save official playoff predictions. We give a little taste right there from both me and Tony, and that's kind of just where our vibe is at right now. But I think we'll wait until that end of the season there as we're getting into that Detroit series. After that, we'll have a few days in between there. We'll do a playoff preview show. Definitely please come back and we discuss more, and we'll know more about who's going to be on the roster. We'll know about health status of guys, hopefully, unless they do it like hockey and completely cover shit up. I don't think that'll be the case, though. They're a little bit more transparent in the baseball world. So, we'll do that, and we'll get a more comprehensive playoff preview. But I like sparking the early discussion here. I do think I agree. And I think just from a talent standpoint, personnel that's available to you, I totally agree with all the leadership things that you said there. But unfortunately for me, I don't know if Lance Lynn matches up well against the Astros. I would actually have more faith in Lucas Giolito. And I think if they're going to win one game, there would be from Lucas Giolito. Weird as that is for me to say since I love Lance Lynn. But we'll see what that all looks like, because if you have Carlos Rodon backing those guys up fully healthy, that's a different mentality there going in there.
Didn't even mention Dylan Cease here.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's a whole nother thing to get into.
If you get Dylan Cease.
Steve talked about it a little bit last night.
If you get Dylan Cease with like one of those magical, and that's the beautiful thing about baseball, Johnny, is that like some days some guys are just on, and if you have a game during this playoff series where Dylan Cease is just fucking on, you're winning that ball game.
Right.
I just think you are, because his stuff is just so good. There's so much talent on this pitching staff, where if people are right, and again, we go back to the date and the moving goalposts. When does everybody get right? I don't know the answer to that question. Yeah. I think it changes based on who I'm texting at the time, but it is what it is.
Yeah, if we also have someone has a machine, someone who's good with biology, be able to clone Ryan Tepera and Liam Hendricks, send them our way. We could use that. That would make me feel a lot more confident going into playoffs too. Because yes, starting pitchers can have a good outing, but
Is Jose Ruiz making this playoff roster?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting there.
Is he?
I
don't think you heard the discussion about him having a
split. Yeah,
he's got the same WAR and about the almost exact as many innings as Michael Kopech.
Yeah, so
and a better ERA.
Yeah, it's a discussion to be had, but like I said, I think we need to wait for our full comprehensive preview there. This is kind of a good prelude to that there, but we have some more things to get to here because there's a big, big in as in just quantity wise games. Not that someone can say they're not important. You can care less about these, but either way, they do have a 5-game set coming up this weekend at Cleveland. I'm already jumping ahead to that. You might say, oh, there's one more on the schedule against Detroit. Guess what? Do my best, Ollie Williams here. It's going to rain. It's going to rain all day in Detroit tomorrow. 90% chance or greater from 8 a.m. through 10 p.m. There's no fucking way they're getting this game in tomorrow. Next time the White Sox will play, we'll be in Cleveland for opening up a split doubleheader on Thursday afternoon, noon, and I believe 5:40 might be the other start time there, 5:10. So, yeah, that's when they're going to play. That's what we're looking ahead to here. It'll be interesting to see what the schedule looks like. I would think we should go and look at, obviously the Royals and Indians are playing tonight. That game is still looks like that might be on because as you saw that weather that was coming through Detroit that the White Sox got there today. That is, I think Stone and Benetti said that's kind of what it'll look like for the Cleveland series there. They are in the middle of the fourth there. Cleveland's up. So, hey, we'll get to your point about that in a second. But then on Wednesday, believe they have another game to close their series out there. Yes, they do. So we'll have to take that measure there. Like I said, I would bet in all favor, I'd throw the house on it that the White Sox and Tigers don't play tomorrow. So get into your situation here about you talk about wanting Cleveland to win tonight.
Yeah, I want Cleveland to win tonight because I want to see this team celebrate on the field. I think it was just going to be a better experience. I feel like it's better for the team to do this on the field. Obviously, you read out that tweet from who was it, Manso Lee earlier about nobody wants to celebrate from the hotel room. That one's kind of stuck with me. I'd rather this White Sox team get to dance all over the Indians for a little bit. My theory is they're going to win tonight. We'll see what happens tomorrow, whether or not the White Sox play a baseball game, but then you're going to need them to win again tomorrow if they play, depending on how rain and everything shakes out. But I would like to see the White Sox come in that first game and just beat the shit out of them in a 7-inning ball game, be able to celebrate in between games. Obviously, that means they're going to lose game 2 on Thursday.
Right.
But it's not going to matter. We're probably not even going to cover the second game. I want the division title.
Yes, I do. And Steve and I talked about this. It's something to celebrate when it does happen. We're not there yet. Still, magic number still sits at 2 where we are right now. As things are going right now, I know it's a 9-inning ball game, but in the 4th inning there right now, 4-0 Cleveland up on KC right now. So it looks like we're going to have that case there. But when it does come, when that time does come, I think whether how you feel about this team, Derek Rosemus in the comments here, we had talked questions back and forth with a little bit in the chat. I'm with you on sort of not having a whole lot of confidence right now that they can really string it all together for a deep run here right now. But that should not stop you from celebrating a division title when it happens. I cannot stress that enough. You pour your heart and soul in this team enough and watch every day, commit so much time and, put energy into it, spend money going to the ballpark. I'm rehashing some of the stuff that I said last night, but do yourself a favor and enjoy it because division championships, guess what? It hasn't happened since 08. Never know when the next one could happen. I mean, sure, it looks like the White Sox are set up for a competitive window here, but look, Detroit's on the rise. You could have multiple injuries next year. What if they don't persevere through those injuries like they did?
We may not have baseball next year.
Yeah, there could be a lockout. Look at what happened in the early 90s.
Yeah, you never know. You never know.
So celebrate that when it happens. Hopefully that is happening Thursday in Cleveland. The White Sox able to do it on their own volition with a win. And obviously that would be a Cleveland loss with us playing head-to-head there. But now that I've said all that and we've set that whole situation up, let's still preview this game as if it's happening tomorrow because I would imagine at least Raylo gets bumped just one day to that start. I don't imagine them altering that plan too much from there. But Reynaldo Lopez is supposed to go up against Casey Mize for the Tigers here. Hey, rain might not be the worst thing in the world. I know Casey Mize is still a work in progress, but shit, this guy has potential dripping off of him.
Yeah, Casey Mize scares the living shit out of me. I said this since the Tigers acquired him in the draft a couple of years ago. I don't like the fact that the Detroit Tigers, and if we're going to close this up because we may not have a chance to, one thing I was texting with our guy NWI Steve during today's ball game was, I think next year, if we do have a season and going into the next couple following years, I think the Tigers are going to be a problem for the White Sox. I think that they're the next team up in the division behind us. They've set their rebuild the right way. They've got an ace in Casey Mize coming through here, a good manager from AJ Hinch's standpoint. We talked about Baду earlier. Miguel Cabrera is going to leave a lasting impact on that organization. There's some good things going on in Detroit, unfortunately. I want the Sox in Detroit to kind of carry this rivalry the same way that the Blackhawks and the Detroit Red Wings did over a course of the 90s, Johnny. That's what I'm looking for right now, honestly, is Detroit to kind of step up and challenge us a little bit. And I want to play the big brother role in this rivalry.
Yes.
And this is kind of the final words on Detroit. Maybe we'll get another game here, but I think that, the Chicago-Detroit rivalry thing could get a good boost out of the White Sox and Tigers over the next couple of years here.
I'll go back. This is even before, Tigers not expected to compete this year. They're still in kind of ascension mode. Think about where the White Sox were in the 17 through 19 seasons. They're somewhere in there. I don't know how the 2020 season shortened affected that too much with development of players and whatnot, but they're somewhere in that window there, right? Let's be realistic about it, just with the prospects that they've got, the pitching that they've built up there. Earlier in the season, though, before this is even happening, it was a big win for the White Sox against the Tigers, and walking down, it was back when they're still only 20%. I'm walking down the ramps coming down from the 500 level, and we're getting a Detroit Sox chant going, all White Sox fans. And, you can see the Detroit fans, they're walking down. They're kind of laughing about it, because they know where their team is at right now. But I think that could be a fun rivalry and get pretty heated. So I agree with you. I think that, this is not the last time we'll see them. We will see them on the South Side to close out the season. Like I mentioned, first weekend of October. But I think, this is a good place to wrap up with Detroit here, because I don't think we will see them until then. And I wonder how, one last question for me lingering is, what the hell do they do about this makeup game? Because it's supposed to be a Detroit home game. Do they just play a doubleheader in one of those games when they come to the South Side and make Detroit the home team for one of them?
I think that's what'll happen. Johnny, is you'll see the Detroit Tigers as a home team against the White Sox, depending on what happens tomorrow. I mean, obviously, I'm not going to rule anything out. I've been wrong about baseball. I could be wrong. You could be wrong about the weather tomorrow in Detroit. We'll see what happens. The weather. We haven't heard from the weather guy in a while, but I think if you do have a rain out tomorrow, MLB is going to look at this and see, when the White Sox do eventually clinch. I think that's bound to happen in an interdivisional game. It may not even be made up, Johnny. I think there's some history there that backs that one up.
I don't think they made one up.
So I think that just depending on the scheduling and everything right there, it sucks for Detroit because they're going to lose some revenue on it. And I know you got to keep Little Caesars Pizza afloat. But, I think that I think this one might not get made up. If it does, I think it'll be on the South Side as a split 7 inning, and you'll get the Detroit Tigers as a home team in guaranteed rate field, but it'll just be semantics at that point.
One last little quirk, and this is all, like I said, assuming though. But you know what? The forecast, man, I know weather can be unpredictable. Things can move in, they can move out, but shit, when it's supposed to rain over 90% all damn day, that doesn't even give you a window. That doesn't even give you we can push it back. We can make it a night game sort of thing. It's like, if you're going to play this game, you're playing at like 4 a.m. leading into that Cleveland series. The White Sox, they have to turn around, play doubleheader that next day too. Don't think that's going to happen. So that's just what I gathered from looking at the weather forecast. Of course, it could change in a heartbeat overnight. Who the hell knows? But that's just what's expected. So that's all we've got to go for right now as we're recording at 6:30 p.m. here on Tuesday night. So, Tony, final thoughts for this show, and then we'll wrap up.
Yeah, I think they could use an off day tomorrow, Johnny. I honestly think that they could use an off day. Get everybody, just the bullpen specifically, a little bit of rest, and come back firing on all cylinders. Couple final thoughts. I know we didn't get into Eloy Jimenez, so I'm going to touch on this briefly. He looks absolutely lost to the plate right now. I think he's a prime candidate for a day off and just kind of figure yourself out. Second to that, Tim Anderson's just coming back from an injury where they said that they were only going to use him every other day, and he's fighting to get in the lineup and just build that consistency back. We're still seeing the guy that the other tough stretch of White Sox baseball this year was when Tim Anderson was out of the lineup. When he's going, I think, we talk about the straw that stirs the drink, all the just terminology around Tim Anderson. I think he's starting to just work his way back and get consistent. He looked okay today. There is going to be a celebration, I think, for White Sox fans in the next few days. I know we're all anxious about it. I am. I know you are. I hope we're taking in the ball games on Thursday together so that we can celebrate appropriately. Just try and wait it out. We've waited fucking how many years? Since 2008? I'm not even going to try and do that math right now. It's been a long time since the White Sox can say that they were the Central Division champions. I know that doesn't mean a World Series. I know that's not the end goal for this team. Celebrate it. Enjoy it. If I don't get to talk to everybody who listens to this show until that happens, soak that in. That's all I've got to say, Johnny.
Right. Well put there at the end there. Tony, I've listed all my thoughts on the team's day-to-day here. So let's talk about a Sox on Tap event coming up. I mentioned that last series of the year at Detroit. Everybody is halfway to St. Patrick's Day. They're doing the Beer Stein giveaway on the Friday night of that Detroit game. Friday, October 1st, 7:10 p.m. Central Time start. Come on out. St. Patrick's Day tailgate, Sox on Tap. We'll be out in Lot B. We'll have the on tap flag out there. Wear any green White Sox gear you have. Bring any ridiculous St. Patty's Day decorations, lights, shit, anything that you have. You want to make it fun. I think it'll be a good time. We all enjoy St. Patrick's Day here at On Tap Sportsnet. That is a big Crackham holiday, Tony. So we will be doing it justice on its sort of half celebration, obviously being September, halfway through into March here. So it should be a good time. Just keep that in your calendars here because that is coming up in a couple of weeks. Obviously, Friday, October 1st. Planning to meet 5:15 in Lot B, 7:10 p.m. start, White Sox and Tigers. So that's all I've got from this one here.
Johnny, you missed the last halfway to St. Patrick's Day tailgate in 2019. If I can leave it on anything, I'm sad you weren't there. It was great. It was a doubleheader. Buzz and I got very, very drunk that day. It was a good day. I can't remember if the White Sox won, lost, what happened. I think maybe they split. Who the hell knows? But it was a fun time. Cannot wait to get back into Lot B with you. I feel like we haven't done it enough this year. Maybe that's just because the year's ending. But enjoy the rest of this. Like I said before, there's going to be a celebration in the next few days. Enjoy that one, White Sox fans. And Johnny, I'll let you close this one down how we always do.
Yeah, right. Make sure you're visiting ontapsportsnet.com for all Chicago sports literature and podcasting needs. Give us a follow on social media at Sox on Tap, at On Tap Sportsnet. You can find all of our articles, podcasts, memes, pictures, videos, all that stuff on there. And then the articles and podcasts as well on the website, ontapsportsnet.com. When you need White Sox merchandise, Grandstand is the place to go. Visit them right by the ballpark, 35th and Wallace. You can also shop online, grandstandsox.com, and follow for all their new releases on social media at Grandstand Sox. That'll do it for this one, Tony. It was tragic, not magic today, but it will be magic sometime in the near future. That being said, White Sox forever.
White Sox forever.